Good evening. I am welcoming you on behalf of our President, Dr. Shubhoshri Sarkar, Jamshedpur Sahodaya School Complex. I welcome our resource person, Sanchita Srivastav ma'am, and all the participants to today's training program on Happy Teachers Create Happy Classroom. Ma'am, please start the meeting.
Yes, good evening, all of you. I hope I'm visible and I'm audible too. Yes.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am, you are
Am I
visible and
visible
audible.
and I'm audible?
Yes, ma'am,
Okay,
you are
okay.
visible and audible.
Thank you so much. So I'll just start the thing. Is my screen visible? Yes. Yes, I think the screen is visible now. Okay. So here it is the happy teachers create happy classroom. So that means what? If the teacher is happy, then only it would be possible for a happy classroom. So, happiness is the prime quotient. What is necessary to make a classroom happy? Because happiness is something that and a positive vibe among the children create the right atmosphere of learning. Okay, so you see. Now, what are the basic things to make a classroom well comfortable? Mainly, the space and arrangement should be comfortable for the children as well as the teachers, because a comfortable place motivates the student to learn, and teachers should be fit and energetic, because whenever we find that the some network issues are there. I hope things are correct. Okay. So the teacher should be fit and energetic. That means what? If the teacher is fit and energetic, then only the classroom should be happy. Isn't it? Because energy, positive energy always rhymes with the energy of the children. Then, joyful activities. Every time the class cannot be monotonous, right? If the class is monotonous, it is very difficult for the class would be very monotonous if the activities are not joyful. Okay. Then teacher should be self-aware and able to regulate oneself. That means what? The mental stability should always be there in the teacher, so that they can, stability means, the mindset and everything, so that it can have a positive. A space where their well-being is as important as their academic achievement. That means what? The children's academic achievements are always important. That you cannot deny. But the happiness in the children should always be given another importance, equal importance with the academic, because that is the happiness that creates a positive vibe in the atmosphere. That is the reason why the happiness is given that much importance. Okay. So to create a happy classroom, it is not just about smiling every day. See, if you just keep the smile and enter the classroom, it is not just possible that that is the only way you can create happiness. No, it is not smiling. It is actually the environment that looks after the whole child and helps them build strategies to feel happier about all aspects of life. That means what? The happiness will give a proper learning atmosphere in the children. Now here you see, here it is a happy teacher equals happy classroom. Because if the teacher is not happy, the classroom cannot be happy. Why? Because teachers are the sole responsible person who creates an environment. See, if you are angry, you can always create a fearful atmosphere. If you are irritated, if you are scolding, then you can always create a very fearful atmosphere. Your children may be quiet, okay, but that is not, the learning atmosphere will not be there. Okay, so happy classroom, if the classroom is happy, you will have compassionate students. See, feeling reciprocates feeling, right? Feeling reciprocates feeling means that if you have, for example, if you're angry, you will be irritated and you will be passing on that particular irritation level to the children. So that means what? The proper learning environment, the teaching learning outcome will not be able, you will not be able to fulfill that. And the children, what will be the end result of the children? The children there will also take up that irritation and will be transmitting that irritation among their group. Even they'll carry that irritation to the playground among the friends. So you will create a disturbed and a very, very frustrating environment. Okay. Now, compassionate student. If the students are compassionate, today's students are tomorrow's citizen. So tomorrow's citizen, it would be a very peaceful citizen, tomorrow's citizen. Because if the compassion is there, feeling is there, so the energy level will always be positive, and you will have a very compassionate society. So that means what? Today, if you are dealing with the children, the happy children, you are preparing tomorrow's peaceful citizen. So that, and compassionate. See, you will have less of crime. You will have less of things over there. Okay. So that is very, very important. And you know, this slide is very, very important. If you want, you can take a screenshot of this. So that this is a very, you know, this is the core of today's session. Why? Because that happy teachers, happy classroom are very compassionate students. Because if students are happy, they'll be compassionate. And compassionate students is just and peaceful citizen. Now, what disturbs the happiness? See, the happiness is disturbed only through worry and anxiety. If you have stress, if you have anxiety, you cannot be happy, isn't it? So, whenever you are in the class, whenever you see that happiness is somewhere being disturbed, you have to find out that what is the worry and what is the anxiety. And you know, it happens at both ends. If you are worried, if you are stressed, you cannot be happy and you cannot go into the classroom with a happy atmosphere. The happy vibes will leave you. And then in the other end, if your children are worried, if some anxiety is troubling them, then also you cannot. So what is the primary thing is, what is worry? That you have to find out. And what is worry? Can anybody just let me know that what do you mean by worry? What is worry actually? Yes, anybody? Yes, can anybody tell me what is worry? Anybody, please? what is worry? Is the network issue? Yes. Now, what is worrying? What is actually worrying? Worry is something that is disturbing, which is a stress. Okay, so identifying worries and coping with anxiety is one of the very, very important things. Worry creates nervousness. Nervousness creates anxiousness, and anxiousness later creates stress. So, what exactly does someone mean when they say they are nervous or anxious? What happens when somebody is anxious? They are stressed. They are peaks. So you cannot be peaceful or worried. Whenever to be now break the worry. You have to break free. What are the challenges? Will come out 100 less of worry. Now, what are the factors that worries a child? What are the factors that worries a child? A child may be anxious regarding homework. A child may be anxious regarding the classwork. If the child, and then you have to look into the atmosphere from which the child is coming. Sometimes when the child is coming from a very disturbed atmosphere, so the child may find stress environment. So 6 challenges that teach a student how to prepare testing in order to lessen their anxiety. So that is what you have to sometimes take small activities like that see children what are the main worries in your class. So if this is worrying, what is the thing that is disturbing you? So that has to be taken into consideration. Now, sometimes, the health of the student is also very, very important. See, if the child is not in proper, or the child is sick, so that time also, the child will find it very difficult to be happy. So whenever you want a happy classroom, you cannot just take this health into consideration. You cannot avoid that. You have to take them into consideration. That means stay at your own place. See, whenever in a classroom, the child who is sick, who is not feeling well, should be seated at a particular place. Then the child should not, if the child is suffering from cough and cold, you have to tell them that you cannot keep your hands on your face. You have to keep it away. Then you have to socially distance a sick child from an healthy child. Otherwise, the whole classroom will be sick. Then cough and sneezing, that habit has to be also there. So you have to teach them these habits. So they are very healthy habits. That is also one of the reasons where you can find a happy classroom. Now, is happy, really coming to school, you can expect a happy kind of class. Okay. So what has to go to, for example, the child has to do the morning routine. They have to get up at proper time, keep things organized, their lunch they're bringing that. You parents also that not possible today, but get this to eat that the child likes. Okay, then the bag should be packed in a very organized way, bottle, everything ready. Homework. These are the things the child has to keep it ready so that they come the next day. Now, here are a few ways. See, before this, I was telling you that how a child should be happy in a very basic process. Okay. Now, 5 ways to get a happy classroom. So, how do you create a happy classroom? Can anybody tell me? How do you get a happy classroom? Yes. Anyone, please? In the chat box, please. Yes, anybody, please enable the chat box so that I get the answer. Anybody can tell me that what are the various ways that creates a happy classroom? So, happy now can just first and the foremost rule to create a happy classroom is providing a support. Can anybody tell me how do you provide a support to your children? See, creating a support network can help to build happiness in the classroom. That means what? Whenever we are in the classroom environment, the classroom environment should be in a collaborative way. That means what? All the children and the teacher should work together in a collaborative form. That means we have to cooperate with each other for any activities what we are doing. Okay, so that is a supportive network. Okay, for example, when the teacher is in the class, see, so many times we are carrying the classwork copies, notes, everything with us. So students very naturally give us a helping hand. Okay, but we can also do that. We can also do that not by carrying their things, but see, if we enter the class 5 minutes before the class starts, especially in the first period, and you greet the children, say hello and good morning before they say. So obviously that would be a great support for them also. So that way it's a vice versa process. Okay. So that means what you have to support your children. Then the second rule. The second rule is celebrating achievement and success. Now, what is celebrating achievement and success? See, every time you don't have to distribute sweets, chocolates, or every time you don't have to give that stars and all. But every day, in everyday class, for example, if you give an answer and somebody answers that, and if you have a round of applause, that is something that is very, very big for the children. So that is celebrating achievement and success. Celebrating individual and group achievements can do much to enhance the happiness to your classroom. That means that is something. If the children are happy, because if see praise is something that gives happiness. Nobody will get angry if you praise. We know that okay, this child has got a specific standard, but self-confidence. See, self gentleness, but it is not something we are naturally born with. This is a very important line you see. Gentle encouragement and recognition of this effort can be almost children needs to slowly build up this confidence level. So that self-confidence, self-esteem. If I'm confident, I can do that. See, failure is also comes with success. Okay. In a classroom, if we are having around about 40 children or 30 children, it is obvious that 10 children will simply lag behind because that's an average. So those 10 children, we can at least say that this is not the ultimate result. Okay, this is not the final destiny. It is just a content that you couldn't do this time. We'll have it next time. We can have small formatives. Very small formatives can be there that we can assess the children, those who are weak in studies. And the encouragement, if you are giving, that would boost the self-confidence in the child. See, whenever we are in the class, we have to create a community trust, right? That means that children have to show their trust in you so that it becomes very easy for you to understand them and to reciprocate with them. Okay, to teach these children, don't trust you, they will not obey you. Okay. Now, building positive relationship. See, building positive relationship among with the children, it's very, very important. Very, very important. Why a positive relationship should be there? Because, you are the one, you are the only one who should be taking charge, and you are responsible also for the every children's learning outcome. So if learning is the motto, you have to see the psychological factor, if it is the child is psychologically ready to learn or not. For example, if the child is crying very badly, howling, small children crying very badly, can you feed that child? You cannot forcefully be crying. You cannot forcefully teach a sad child. A child who is not paying attention. See, paying attention, we can generalize them all. You cannot just teach a child who is not having a positive set of mind. So we have to find out what is troubling the child. Okay, so not all children, see, one thing is that the background from which the child is coming also responsible for the teaching learning outcome, how well the child is in the class. So sometimes, we have children who are coming from disturbed houses. Disturbed houses means they have got a disturbed relationship. Maybe the parents are disturbed, or sometimes they are not supported well in the house. So sadly, not all children have such positive relationship outside the school. So providing a consistently happy and a positive environment within it can contribute heavily to create a positive relationship among the children. And teachers are like second parents to the children. So whatever is happening within the boundary of the classroom, a teacher can set you back. Now, a child gets marks, he's happy. A child does his homework properly all by himself, he's happy. A child learns the poetry and recites in the classroom very well, he's happy. The child does his project work, comes and shows to the teacher, he's happy. So how do all these things happen? These children have to learn and developing coping skills with them. We are giving them skills. Some are innate, that means some they are born with, and some we are teaching them. So how they are going to use that skill in their day-to-day life, in their academics, is very, very important. Developing coping skills, if we are able to teach children to understand their emotions as well as how their body may feel and react due to these times of stress, they will be able to identify that and need to feel better. That means what? See, the skills they are reciprocating in the class, their learning skills, their reading skills, everything. And sometimes, when they meet a failure, sometimes they do not achieve what they want. So that time, how do they cope with it? That coping skill is very, very important because children may get distressed, especially the adolescents, especially the young children. That is very, very difficult for them to cope with. So that means we have to encourage the children how they are going to adjust to their teaching. How they are going to adjust with the stress they are going through. Okay. Now here's an activity. What to do when a student refuses to work? Now what do we do? If the particular student refuses to work, will not study, what we'll do? Should we keep teaching? Should we give them time? We be reflective. We meet privately, use logical consequences, give choice and more. So what is to be done? See, there is no hard and fast rule. How a teacher manages a classroom, it entirely depends on the particular teacher how to do that. How a teacher will adjust to it, it is the responsibility of the teacher. There is no rule to it, how he or she will handle the situation. But as much as possible, give the child time. Okay, today's learning outcome is not a final learning outcome. We can always give them a second chance. Second chance can always be given, isn't it? Then meet privately. See, every teacher knows every children very well, isn't it? We are excellent at that. In a classroom, if we are taking the class and if children are there, so we know how each children is. So we can always, at the end of the class, we can always call them and we can always ask how to do that. Now here, you just see the slide. Here, what in front of you, you see that Dalai Lama along with Mr. Kejriwal is there, and they are holding a book with them. Holding a book with them, and in that book it is written Happy Curriculum. You can see the slide here. Okay. See, it is written Happy Curriculum. Now, what is this actually, and why is Dalai Lama here with it? Now, you see, Happiness Class is a program developed by the government of Delhi for the students from nursery to grade 8. Nursery to grade 8, and it was introduced in 2018 by His Holiness Dalai Lama. Okay, why did he introduce this curriculum? In the curriculum is a path-breaking initiative that questions and challenges the traditional pedagogy and practices. The pedagogy, what we are dealing with every day, not enforce it on the children. Because today's children, they are overburdened with the syllabus. This pedagogy is burdening them. Even a class KG class children is equally stressed than a class 12 children. Equally. So the curriculum believes that the purpose of education is to create confident, mindfulness, responsible, and happy individuals. See, happy individuals is very much necessary in this society, who collectively builds a happy and a harmonious society. This happiness curriculum is an endeavor to guide the attention of the student towards exploring, experiencing, and expressing happiness in not just momentary but deep, sustainable as well. So that means, what is the main motto? Why is this happiness, happy classroom, happy teacher introduced in this? Because happy curriculum is a guide, is to guide the attention of the student towards exploring. That means if they are happy, they will listen to you, and if they are happy, they will learn very easily and happily. They will learn. The experience of learning would be a happy one, not a painful and a boring one. Okay, and that education that is provided through happy atmosphere will sustain in the life of children. So when we are educating, it is not the content that is evaluated at the end of the term. It is not the assessment that is important, but how happily the pedagogy is inculcated in the children, how happily the pedagogy is distributed among the children, and how it is absorbed is very important. Because if you learn happily, you remember well. That work, that education would be a meaningful one. Here you see in this slide, there are 3 different forms. One is momentary happiness, deeper happiness, and sustainable happiness. Now, what is momentary happiness? Momentary happiness is happiness for a particular moment. For example, you give a chocolate to a child. You just give a chocolate to the child becomes very happy with that chocolate. After the chocolate is over, the happiness over. Then deeper happiness. Deeper happiness means what? Something that goes deep in. Some activities that you like, to do something that is that makes you happy. So that is the deeper happiness. Okay. And finally, the sustainable happiness. The sustainable happiness, when you see, this sustainable happiness is something that stays along with you. The learning and the awareness, that is actually the sustainable happiness. See, if the happiness sustains in itself, it will give you a lifelong good memory, isn't it? Every individual remembers the happy moments in a much better way than they remember the sad one. Just in your life, you remember that whenever you had a fight, you don't want to remember that, right? But some moments you cherish, and that happiness, sustainable happiness, is something, that you have to nurture. You have to be into the habit of becoming happy, because that has to be cultured, that has to be nurtured, and that has to be propagated and shared. Okay, so that is called sustainable happiness, a happiness that gives you a path of, see, some peace yogas, meditation. After you do that, you feel an inner calmness. You don't want to fight with anybody, just attending a yoga session, right? So that gives you a learning and awareness, and that is what the main goal of teaching. Now here you see, here's a curriculum that is 5 minutes mindfulness. What is mindfulness? See, we eat food for the body. Okay. But sometimes we need So what is mental food? Something that gives you happiness from within. Mentally, you feel happy, relaxed. Okay, so how do you do that? Mindfulness. That mindfulness activity is very, very important. You know, sometimes you have storytelling activities. The introduction of drama and theater is also there in the classroom. So that way you have 5 minutes mindfulness is always there. So you have to incorporate in your daily schedule mindfulness, happiness. How will you do that? So there are so many activities, you know, that depends on the teacher. Every day is not possible. 5 minutes of activities. After, for example, sometimes after you finish off your lesson, you just give a recap, and then relating to the topic, you can have a very lively discussion. Sometimes you can infuse humor in the classroom that keeps away the boredom, and as well as the children will be happy. So that mindful activity and mindfulness is very, very important. Okay. Now, what are the objectives of the happiness curriculum? What are the different objectives? Now, you know why this happiness curriculum is important? Because this happiness curriculum, they develop a self-awareness. Self-awareness and mindfulness among the children. So self-awareness is definitely important because the children, they will know themselves. They will know why they are unhappy, what is worrying them, what is the anxiety behind, so that they will come to know. Okay, then in okay, now we inculcate skills of critical thinking and inquiry in the learners. See, that critical thinking has to be made practiced. Okay, inculcate means you have to make it a regular routine so that they emphasis on critical thinking. So that means you are the one to infuse the activities, holistic activities that boost up the critical thinking and inquiry in the learners. Inquiry means they need to have questions. For example, if you are just talking and you're talking and you don't have any other query from the other side, so that is a very bad way, isn't it? Then enable learners to communicate effectively and express themselves freely and creatively. So this is another very, very important point where the learner has to be trained to communicate. See, we should be good listeners. Being good listeners, we can effectively express themselves freely and creatively, and then to enable learners to understand their expectations. They need to understand their expectations in the relationship. That means, for example, from parents, how much do they expect? What they expect from a teacher, how much they expect from a teacher. So that expectation levels should be understood by them. Because if they don't understand their expectation limit, that expectation limit, if they don't understand, they will not be happy. They will be more demanding. So for that, they have to be taught, they have to be understood that what is their limit, even from parents, from friends. Okay, so they have to develop empathy, then ensure healthy relationship with the family, with peers and teachers. So that is also very, very important. A healthy relationship in the atmosphere, in the environment is very, very important. Now, here, to enable learners to apply their life skill to deal with problem, conflicting situations around them. For example, what they have studied, they have to implement in the world around them. So, and if something is happening that is not in a positive way, so they need to know how to handle them. Then what is the thing is, happiness is not something that you buy it from the market. So that you should make children understand that to develop a social awareness and human values in the children and in meaningful contribution to the society. That is very, very important. That is the reason. Again, I repeat the same thing, that today's children are tomorrow's citizens. So that is the reason you should see to that the social awareness and human value is very, very important. With that, human value should be inculcated. Then we should develop a holistic approach to education in a universal context. That means what? Happily you are giving the education, happily the child is learning. But ultimately, what is the final goal of this teaching and learning outcome? The holistic approach means what? Thus, happily, the learning skill is inculcated. But that learning skill should be utilized by the children in their day-to-day life. So, how well they use these informations, how well they utilize these skills is very, very important. So that is the reason we have to develop an holistic approach to education in a universal context. Now, finally, most importantly, the commitment to be happy. So how do you become happy? See, first is happiness. You have to be self-awareness. Self-awareness means you should know what is stressing you. You should know what is worrying you. So this has to be done. Then when you create a self-awareness, then you have to see self-management. How do you handle stress? If you are in the stress, as a teacher, you cannot carry that stress to your classroom. You have to give away to these stresses. Okay. And this stress management, you have to teach the children also. If the children is not in a bad mood, so they cannot just beat up a child or quarrel with a child. You cannot do that. So if the self-awareness and self-management comes close together, then obviously the social awareness is already created among the children. Because finally, the outcome is the social awareness, right? So social awareness is the final goal. Now, happiness in the classroom enhances the teaching process. How to do that? See, happier students work better, healthier. Their assessments are also done in a proper way, and generally, they are very successful. They are very successful learners. School leaders, parents, and you, if thinking and focusing on students' happiness distract from serious learning, all could be wrong. Because if the child is very sad, the child is not learning properly. So obviously the academics will also go wrong, isn't it? And the leadership quality, the identity, the individual identity, the personality development is also created when there is a happy atmosphere in the classroom, as well as a happy atmosphere among the school. The evidence also shows that schools that work on developing students' well-being not only have happier students, but that they do better academically and their behavior improves at the same time. That means what? If the school works on the happiness or the happy well-being. See, schools are institutions not only to give them the academic knowledge, but as well as build strong citizens for tomorrow. That is very, very important. Okay. So the evidence shows that schools that works on developing students' well-being important for the proper development of the child. So how can you do that? How it is done? See, research have proved that children don't learn. When they don't learn, when they are fearful in class. So whenever a teacher is in the class, they have to create a community of trust. Community of the trust on both sides. The student has to have trust on the teacher, and the teacher should also have trust on the children. And they are not having fun in school. We have already heard, saying long ago it was used that all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, right? So when all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, that means what? From the time immemorial, this has been there. This theory that games, activities has to be compiled with teaching activities. That is the reason, emphasis on sports and games has been given. So why? Because that takes away the boredom from the class. Now, finally, there are a few ideas for a calm and a happy classroom. Now, how do you have? See, for example, sometimes you are also stressed. So when you see your children, you can just walk around the room. Then sometimes, you also need some feedback. You also need some feedback. So whenever you need a feedback, you ask the student for feedback. On the other hand, you give them the praise. You praise them for their activity. Check for the understanding, how much they have understood. Give kids a chance to talk, isn't it? Use more than one behavioral system. Don't use one single way of practice of teaching. There are so many behavioral ways, and every day you can change them. Then communicate with the parents. That is also very, very important. You need to communicate with the children if you are dealing with the students. Then finally, you have to see your time schedule in a class. For example, if you have 40 minutes in a class, you can just give 10 seconds, or you can give them less than 10 seconds to interact. Say hello, how are you? Then interaction, make interaction less than 10 seconds. And finally, this thank you. This thank you word can do wonders, isn't it? So finally, I think we have nearly come to the end of the session. So if any queries, any question, you can just ask me. Anybody? Anybody with a query? Anybody wants to ask something? Yes. So anyways, thank you all. I think I have come to the end of the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. It was really very nice, very wonderful session. It was a fruitful session for we all teachers for creating happy space for our children. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I was really tensed in the first part because that network issue was there. I was unable to join, but thank you so much, ma'am. Okay, so I think we have come to the end, so we can just I can just leave, ma'am.
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you once again. Why it is like this? I cannot leave also. ছাড়তে পারছি না কেন? ওয়েবসাইটে কাজ করছেন কেন?